most of you will go back to your territories and will become terrors to darkness. I want to share briefly, and then we will allow God to do great and mighty things in our midst. You know, the subject we are considering it's very heavy. When God chooses a people, it's a scary thing. When the Spirit looks upon you and says He wants you, it's a very scary thing. Because you can't serve a spirit until you are colonized. So when the Spirit indicates interest in your life, it means your life is gone. When you gave your heart to Christ, you actually didn't give Him your life, you received His life. But when God says He wants to use you, that time He came to take your life. So at new birth, we receive the life of God. But in service, God receives our life. So when God says He wants to use a people, it's a scary thing. Because one, you lose your life. And number two, that you lose your life does not mean you'll be approved of that spirit. Because you may give up your life, and while you're on the way, other things will come in. And then the life you lost will count for nothing. Because after you have journeyed for many years, you will now decide to take another route. You won't journey to the end. That one now you'll be lost. So when God comes for a people, it calls for sober reflection. And this evening, I want to show us 4 organic things that we must sustain consciously and keep as we walk with God to the end of our journey. You see, when you walk with a spirit, the norms are not the factors to consider. It is the organic things that happen within you and between you and the spirit that counts. God can be using a man mightily, and then you look around that man and see the things the man is doing, and then you photocopy it. It's good at the periphery. But when you journey with that spirit for a while, organic realities will be born in your spirit. Those things are your strongholds. The externalities are not too important. You may lose the organic realities and still be doing all kinds of activities. The spirit doesn't know you anymore. Because what binds you and that spirit is the organic cord, the lively cords between you and the spirit. Because that's where you find your peculiarity. And that's where you find your place in the operations of that spirit. The physical things are generic. But when you want to do kingdom business, there must be something that ties you with the spirit you are working with. That thing is what gives you a place. When you lose it, the essence of what you are doing is already gone. And you may do the activities until you leave this world. But you will discover you didn't work with that spirit because it won't know you. And I will pick 4 of them this evening just to help us to understand better. You know, sometimes as a traveling minister, I move around for a long time and then I stop sensing God. I still come for the meeting. I know what to do to jack the atmosphere. People are falling, the power of God is moving, people are healed. And then I come back and tell them, I didn't ascend. And then the people, with all these things that happen with the ascent, the ascension is not about what happened. It's about the romance that goes on between you and the Holy Ghost. You will not sense it, but so much will be happening. And then people will be, hey, a great man of God. If you look at what is happening, you are gone. Because over time, when you start looking for that spirit, you can't find him anymore. Because the men that walk with God, they search for God in the spirit. You know, the Bible said in Exodus 20:21, it said Moses stepped into the deep darkness where God was. He looked for him. He could pick the movement of God any day, anytime. Israel were carried away by the power. So you came for a meeting, there was power, but you couldn't trace God. God hid himself, because what God is looking for is intimacy. You are looking for manifestation. A demon can give manifestation, but the man that can find God, you looked for him until you found where he was, and you pitch your tent there. And sometimes you forget the meeting. That's the life of Jesus. Sometimes Jesus comes for a crusade, the people gather, and then he sneaks out through the back door, and you hear that Jesus entered into the mountain. They don't enter mountains, they climb mountain. But what he's telling you, he's not ascending a physical mountain. He's entering into the belly of God to find the intimacy that he had with him before the foundation of the world. Because his activity on earth will count for nothing until he holds that intimacy. That was his watchword while he walked there. Even when he was on the cross, the Bible never recorded that he cried when they nailed him. When the nails pierced him, he never cried. The Bible didn't record. When they plunged him, they didn't record. But the moment sin came upon him and got torn, he said, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. My God, my God. For the first time, he couldn't find the Father. Why the nails were going on, it wasn't a problem. Why they were beating him, it wasn't a problem, because he was with the Father. But the moment the Father turned, Eloi, Eloi, I can't find the Father. For the first time, Jesus was searching in the spirit, and he couldn't see the Father. Where art thou? You know, men don't know the value of intimacy. Meanwhile, God stepped into the garden. Adam was still functioning as a God. He ruled over the garden. And when God showed up, he said, Adam, Adam, where art thou? You are still naming animals. Meanwhile, you are falling from your throne. I can't see you in my radar. You are lost from my radar, but you are doing activity in the garden. Where art thou? You are not numbered until you carry those things. Because when God numbers men, it is your connection with God that is connected vitally to him. So sometimes when prayer is going on, that's when some people find their God, and then they follow it until they touch God. They have had their own service. Their service has finished. They have touched God. The other worship, we thank God, we are worshiping, but we have touched God. They have appeared in Zion. Meanwhile, the other is when worship is going on. That's where they find their God, and they journey into Zion, and they touch him. Let me not preach from body. Let's read the Bible, a book. If you know the number of people that don't know when last they touch God, you cry. Meanwhile, we gather in thousands. We are saying, revival, revival. We are the one God is using. Who? Sorry. Let me read the Bible. Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. You know, God is dealing with a lot of generations at the same time. There are many ages in God. The age of man is one of the many ages. As we are talking now, there is the age of the angels. And the angels are of different class. It's not every spirit in heaven that is an angel. But I don't have time to show you. I don't have time to show you the spirits that existed with God many years before even the angels were created. If you join in the rankings of the spirit, you will discover there are many spirits in heaven. Many spirits. Some of them just sit with God. They just stay with God. That's all they do. There are other spirits that God has allocated dimensions to them. So if you enter heaven, you will find certain spirit. They will tell you, this is the spirit of wisdom. There are many ages before God created the age of man. And every age in heaven has a law of the spirit that governs it. In the angelic age, the law, the code of the angelic age is service. So you can't be an angel until they are high commissioners, they are messengers of God. So you are not an angel until you are in service. Because what defines that age is service. When an angel is removed from service, it ceases from being an angel. That was what happened to Lucifer. When Lucifer was removed from service, he was no longer an angel. Because the age of the angelic is governed by their service to God. And the way angels serve God, they serve the Lord by revealing his dimensions. That's why their realm is full of external glory. So you see an angel of light, when he appears, he can dwarf the sun. You see an angel of fire, when he appears, everything begins to burn. So in their service, as they serve God, their glory increases. Their glory is increasing to the degree of their service. So that age is called the angelic age, because the angels are servants of God. But when God created the age of man, there was a different code that age of man. The angelic age was created by a wisdom that predominantly anchors on service. But when God wanted to create man, he entered himself again and he said, let us make man. You see, this angelic age, they have disappointed us, because one of the governors that was the ruler of the earth have discussed in service, his glory intensifies. So he has miscalculated the manifestations that he carried to make him one of us. And he now said in Ezekiel 28 verse 18, he said, because of the multitude of thy iniquity, you have corrupted thy sanctuary. So your glory now is for nothing. You can't serve anymore. Your beauty is not in the illumination. Your beauty is in the fact that you are in active service. Because what rules your age is service. The moment you are withdrawn from service, your beauty counts for nothing. You have become a man of iniquity, and he was cast as profane from the mountains of God. And when service became compromised in Zion, God decided to craft another intelligence. And so he activated the age of man. You know, God is the God of ages past. There have been many projects of God. There have been many civilizations of God. But after the angelic civilization failed, God decided to start another age. That was when he came to the creation of man. And when God created man, the mystery that governed our age was different from the mystery of the angelic age. So the mystery of the human age is God hid in dust. So when God wanted to create our age, the mystery of our age is that God hides in man. So when he wanted to create Adam, what God did was that God divided himself for the first time. The Trinity splitted, and he took God. And when he carried God, he fetched dust and he hid God in dust. So the age of man is a mystery that God is hiding in the dust. So the goal of man is not first of all service. The goal of man is his ability to tap into the God that hides on his inside. That's why the mystery of our age is koinonia, is fellowship. Because if you have not found the God that is on your inside, you are not alive. Just the way if an angel is not in service, he ceases to be an angel. If you don't find the God on your inside, you are not a man. That was why Paul said in Colossians 1:26, he said, this is the mystery of the age of man, Christ in you, the hope of glory. Because if you don't have God on your inside, if you don't know that God on your inside, you are not. This is life eternal, not bread. He said that you may know him. That one that is hidden on your inside. Man can journey through time and never know God. And he will walk and say, I'm the governor of Texas. When they check the radar of Zion, you are not yet a man. You become a man the day God tabernacles your inside. and you begin to live the day you touch that God. My voice, this voice, it will crack. This voice, it must crack. You know, every time God laughs in Jesus, he knows. Because life was his ability to stay connected. If God is grieved, he knows. If God rejoices, he knows. Because you don't live in this world by men directing you. You live in this world by receiving your navigation from the one inside. So it is him that will tell you, rise up, get thee down to Joppa. That's where you live from. The one that hides here, he's the one that that's why I say it's not given to man that walketh to order his step. In matters of ordination, creativity is not a factor. Because the one that sits here will be the one to tell you, leave Nigeria and go to Brazil. Meanwhile, somebody else will look at you and say, oh boy, this Brazil they walk. Meanwhile, I won't go Brazil. Meanwhile, the one inside tell him go to Congo. So he will leave Brazil and go to Congo. If you are in the wrong direction, speed is not an advantage. And the reason is because he has not touched the one that sits inside. You know, these things are not sweet, but I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. They are not. See, I would have gone to India 2 years ago on scholarship, and I would have been saying, but India is fine. By now, maybe I would have crystallized an Indian damsel. And then when you check my slate in Zion, India was not written. And then I'll return to Zion as a mighty man. They will check and say, no, you didn't touch this man. This being here, you didn't find him. So what were you doing on earth? They will now ask you, where were you? I was on earth now. I was 80 years old. 80 where? So what were you doing? How come you didn't find him? You say, I was busy here and there. As I was busy here and there, so you will lose purpose. Because you were busy here and there. You didn't know the code that governs this age. Pray that you don't grow old. Find him early. You know, people brag and say they are 50 years old. 50 years? Some people looked at my age. They were quoting some age on the internet. I knelt down and thank God. I said, thank God I've not reached there. Because if I've reached there now, I would have wasted by now. Thank God I've not reached there. Don't you notice that when a man finds him, his life becomes glorious? You now look at him, you think you love him. Who told you you love him? It's what is fetching from his ear. You see a preacher like some of us. Somebody is walking, you say, I love him. Love what? Sometimes you see fetched him out. He fleshed him. So it is the God on his inside that you are touching. Because he has become a representative of a dimension. So long as he finds that God, even if you take him to a wilderness, it will become a fruitful field. Because he has found the code for this age. So when they say Africa is in view, don't be so happy to say because you are in Africa. Because even Judas Iscariot was there when Jesus was there. Proximity is not an advantage. Meanwhile, somebody else can be in Brazil and enter the spirit of the age. And he will be white-skinned, but he will carry the mantle of Africa. Yes. Because he can tap into it by alignment. Because every time God brings a dimension to a people, there's a government that comes with it. Anybody that satisfies the demand of that government becomes part of the people. So Africa is not a geographical location. Africa is the people that will tap into the requirement of the season. Anybody that taps into the requirement of the season, he can be in Canada, he will front the revival. Because it's not about a geographical location, it's a dimension, it's a government, it's a requirement. If you find it and you align, Even if your skin is white, in heaven you have become Africa. Meanwhile, some people will be black-skinned and their village will be in Nigeria, but they will not know about the revival. So it's not about skin color. It's about accessing what is available. I would have shown from scriptures why it is Africa's time, but evangelist has done a thorough exegesis. That's why I want to show us the requirement. Because everything happening is an operational system. It's inside here. So don't be so glad that you are in Nigeria and then assume that those who are not in Nigeria will feel bad. It's a lie. You can be in the United States and you will front this revival if you know what it takes and you align with it. Because when he say Africa, it wasn't written Africa in heaven, because it's not God that named it Africa. It's the people that found us that named it Africa. What it was written in heaven is a dispensation. It's a dealing. It's an operation of the Spirit. So anybody who finds that dispensation, that dealing, and that operation of the Spirit becomes an African. Hey, hey, hey,